I was recently reading an article in the Atlantic, and it was all about how homeownership should be a consumable and shelter. We should start treating shelter as a consumable and not an investment. This kind of took me aback. I do like reading, counter arguments and things to kind of diversify my opinion. But at the end of the day, this article, it didn't offer a whole lot of suggestion on how we move forward and a solution to the problem. It just kind of said that homeownership and the reliance on appreciation as being the only form of investment is, something we should move away from in America. And I thought that was crap. So today I want to talk to you a little bit about what to kind of expect and how this might be a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction to our market. And as we move forward into the new year, definitely want to touch base with all of you and help you understand what maybe you should expect from this market. What's up, Jeremy Kane, eXp Realty here. So excited to bring this episode to you. This is a little bit of kind of a real talk, just kind of step back and talk. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Would be happy to talk with you. If you hear something that, piques your interest and you're interested in a buyer consultation, there's a Calendly link below. I would love to talk to you because the take-home message of all of this and my channel in general is that home ownership and buying a home and selling a home should be on your terms. We talk a lot about real estate, but real estate isn't day trading. So let's kind of dive into this. And I'll tell you what the title of the article is in the Atlantic. It was, home ownership society was a mistake. And it's all about how the government has kind of propped up this, home ownership and home values, and they've put a lot of stock in, the American dream and being home ownership, and they're the ones kind of behind it. And if they would just stop worrying about that and start worrying about, rent regulations and offering, counsel to tenants who are mistreated and all of this stuff, that our whole problem would be, gone, and everybody could do their investments in the stock market, which returned better than, the real estate market during COVID and all of this stuff. And so as I got to reading, I kind of got frustrated. And as you hear, I'm kind of amped up because I know what homeownership has done for me, and limited government is kind of my deal. Like, I don't want a bunch of government regulations, people telling anybody how to live their life. Reliance on government, I think, is a huge mistake. And so this article kind of tweaked me, and I was like, what the heck, and I got to thinking, I said, well, where's it come from? And it's really all about how, we react when the market shifts and things kind of change, pace. And so what do we need to do in this market to prepare ourselves, and who is this market for, and what's really going on from a consumer perspective? And the truth is the headlines are, usually from a national bird's eye view perspective, which is very much so what this article kind of looked at. I think it takes away from the, hyper local piece of real estate and how the real estate market in Denver could be different than the real estate market in, Hays, Kansas, or, St. Louis, Missouri, or, Boca Raton, Florida, and all these different places. And so as we kind of break down home ownership and what it means, and he kind of goes into a piece where he says, is home ownership really a forced savings account? Are you really saving? Because this study said that most people are just putting more money into our home, and it becomes this, repeatable thing. And if you're a first-time home buyer 20 years ago and you invested, and then you had all this crazy appreciation, which he says was a result of the government interference and, putting all this interest in home ownership, the American dream. And now a first-time home buyer buys a home at inflated value. Can we really expect that in 20 years, another first-time home buyer is going to come in and buy that aging asset and all this stuff? So that's kind of interesting, but real estate over time has, crushed. Like, the average appreciation over time, real estate is absolutely far superior and more stable than any other investment. And so this is something that I thought was very interesting, and for lack of a better term, there was no solution to the problem. He just said the government's going to save the day. Well, in order for the government to do what he wanted us to do in this article, they would have to pull all the property back from all the people and, lay the groundwork, which obviously is probably not going to happen. So what can we really expect as a consumer in this market? And the next 3 or 4 months, I think there's going to be opportunity. And I think this is, for longevity. Like, there's going to be opportunity for buyers, sellers all the time. But the bottom line is that shelter and housing is a lifestyle, right? And so if your life is set up at a certain situation, and say, you know, in the next 3 or 4 months, you're a buyer and you have the ability to kind of, you know, weather the storm and pay the higher interest rates, and that you're comfortable in that monthly payment, this is the time for you to shine, right? Whereas, you know, if you can't afford that monthly payment, maybe you could save that $300-400 that, you know, in the difference between the average mortgage and the rent that's going on right now. Maybe it's better for you to rent. And the truth is that each individual profile is what we really need to look at. And that's kind of what I love doing. Like, we can talk about the market all day, and this is the biggest piece of all of this, is we've never had a correcting market or a shifting market when we've had this much access to all of this information on all kinds of different platforms. You know, we don't know what's true, we don't know what's fake, we don't know what's real, we don't know what's made up, you know, and so that's something we have to get used to. And like, I do it too, I report on the market and all of this stuff, but nothing really matters except for your personal, you know, situation and what's going on. If you have to move across the country because you got a better job, you got to move. Like, it doesn't really matter if your house was worth $20,000 more 6 months ago. You're going to move and sell, and then you're going to buy a new home. And, you know, you're kind of at that, you know, I've talked a lot about monopoly money and equity and how that kind of plays a role, but the same goes for the buyer. Like, I think honestly, the beginning of 2023 is going to be an opportunity for the buyer to get in and have some deals and get the seller to maybe buy down a rate and do you know, you can get into a home with a, you know, 3 or 4% interest rate with some of these buy down programs, you know, for a certain amount of time. It's temporary, or you can get a permanent buy down. And so all this talk about these high interest rates, and the interest rates are so high. Well, did you know you could get into a home with a 3% interest rate right now? You know, that's absolutely insane. And a lot of people don't know that. And so we just kind of need to adjust, and whatever makes sense to you as the consumer at the time is what we can do, and we can build a plan around that. So, you know, for the forecast for the future, and we'll talk a little bit about this, you know, in coming episodes as we round out this year, but I think there's going to be opportunity for buyers into, you know, May and maybe June in our market, and it might be different in your market if you're not in Denver. You know, so that's something you just kind of have to look into. If you need a professional in any real estate market and you like what I'm saying, I can definitely find somebody who's like-minded, or I know somebody within my group at the Wolfpack that'll absolutely help you, you know, achieve your goals of home ownership or investment or real estate, whatever that may be. And so just kind of look at it and take a step back, and life, you know, kind of comes and goes, and it's not like you're going to lose a ton of money if you decide to sell your home that you've had for 5 years today because the market's a little bit tougher. But what I do know is if you're buying in the next, you know, 4, 5, 6 months, you're probably going to get a little bit more, you know, play from the seller that maybe you couldn't get a couple years ago. And as we move into that next market, you know, when the inflation is under control and supposedly the mortgage rates will come down a little bit, that's when people are going to be ready to flood into the market. Well, I'm here to tell you that there's not going to be a lot of sellers out there raising their hand being like, hey, I'm going to get rid of this 2.75 interest rate, you know, and not rent this property out. And so the investment, you know, the inventory piece is going to kind of be based on, oh, is this a good investment? Like, could I rent it out and kind of cash flow and keep this asset and, you know, whatever? Or, you know, do I need to sell this house? Could I keep a second home and kind of do that thing lifestyle wise? And so that's something to really keep an eye on, because if we don't have inventory, we're going to be right back to where we were with the crazy bidding wars. I hope that the buyer is a little more educated and patient as we move into that market. But I know once people see that lower interest rate, it's going to be kind of a race out there. And so I think we may see that in Q3, Q4 of 2023, if all of the projections of all the really smart mortgage industry people that I follow and that you follow are correct. We really need to make sure we're ready to go. So you can read articles like this, you can hear what I say. Obviously, I'm a huge proponent of home ownership, not for my own gain, but because I've seen what it's done for me, and I want to make that possible in all of my clients' you know, lives, whether you're local or in another town. I'd love to be a part of your journey. But at some point we have to understand that a lot of this, you know, knee-jerk reaction and, you know, editorial article writing and stuff is all just a reaction to, you know, a headline. And you're not a headline, you're not a knee-jerk reaction. You're a person that has a life that has all these things. And so that's what I'm here to help you with. And so just take everything with a grain of salt in the real estate world for the next 6 months to a year. We're kind of in an adjustment phase. We've never had this much technology. We've never had information travel this fast based on, Jerome Powell talking and, the mortgage rates falling and all of this stuff. So there's a lot of noise out there. And the truth is that we need to block out the noise and focus in, because if we're going to execute at a high level in anything we do, you got to block out the noise. You got to get tunnel vision. You got to make sure that, you're doing what's best for you. So as always, Jeremy Kane, eXp Realty. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions or you're interested in looking into getting into that first investment property, I will tell you the first investment property sucks. If you're interested in this video, check it out right here. But I would love to chat with you anytime. Have a good night. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.